and every woman in this land. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Whatever comes between us, you know the darkness won't defeat us. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Some say the end is a-coming, said our souls are running, but I say stay strong, keep your faith alive. Let's all come together, take care of each other. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Hand in hand, side by side, with hearts open wide. Stay strong, keep your faith alive.
It's really valuable to remember that the purpose and the promise made by these sages are not like the people pitching to us contemporary, always trying to sell us something. The promise made by these sages thousands of years ago is the total, final, complete, permanent annihilation of suffering. The promise made by these innocents, these sages. And in this understanding, this suffering is caused by ontological terror, the abyss of disconnection, the pain of our disconnection from our own inherent divinity, our own disconnection from nature, our disconnection from life. And what these practices promise is yoga, union with our own self. Imagine, or we all know how painful it is to go through life clueless of ourself, thinking that we're our mind, thinking that our ego mind, thinking that we are the fragile fictions that our ego clings to, and totally ignorant. And since what your mind dwells upon, you become that in our focus on this obsessive ego as it clings to its fictions that hopefully will bring it security, and as it fetishizes the pain, trying to somehow deal with it, we give up our power to our minds, and the mind is a wonderful servant, but just a mad master. So the promise of all of these methods is not just the amelioration of suffering, but the total, final, complete, permanent annihilation of suffering. Now, this promise is not in some heaven that after you die, you'll go to some pie in the sky heaven. The promise is in this moment, that you can recapture the moment, that you can be empowered in this moment to be free of the mind and to commune with emptiness, commune with the eternal present. And even a simple practice like chanting offers us that. Because again, the chant is offered in the moment. And all you need to do is to make part of your chanting, listen very, very carefully to your chanting and the harmonics of the space between the chanting. If what you're doing is focusing on the chanting and listening to the chanting, you're distracted from your mind. That every moment that you are focused on the chanting, you're not in your mind, you're not in your story, you're not in your ego. And you create a feedback loop of consciousness, a feedback loop of presence. And this purifies the mind. Now we're saying that the pain that we're in is is a divorce from being, a divorce from, and again, the Sanskrit term for being is sattva guna. The quality, sattva, being, and guna, quality. And guna is also translated as vortex, that we're talking about field dynamics and the way you vibrate. And that the key to yoga is everything in your life is the effect of a cause, and the subtle is the cause and the material is the effect, that everything is an epiphenomena of consciousness. So by consciously working with our consciousness, we can change the way we vibrate subtly and actually purify the mind. So every moment that we are chanting, I was digitizing some old photos, and in so many of these old photos I was wearing my headphones, because I used to wear headphones and carry a Walkman and then later a Discman with Krishna chants on it. And every minute I could, I was playing those chants and trying to remember to chant with them, because I was dealing with the tremendous, tremendous pain of my of the ego mind. In 1981, when I started Heartwood, I was going through a Saturn transit, and and so I got myself in the situation where we moved to the middle of nowhere and started a New Age community, and only had 5 paying customers there to support another 40 people. And I was just afraid of losing my small inheritance, and I was just gripped by fear and traumatized. We were so traumatized that every day was salt on the wounds of our trauma, and we're re-traumatized day after day after day. So I had turned into just some sort of a bizarre caricature of myself. I was so gripped by fear, and so I spent every moment that I could clinging to the life raft of mantra, so that I wouldn't drown in the sea of my own self-hatred, self-loathing, terror that I would lose my wife, my family, my home, and everything. So what was I doing? I was just listening to the nectar of immortality, listening to these chants, and trusting that the chants were better than anything my mind was offering, anything my terrified and obsessive mind was offering. And trusting that these chants were purifying my mind, and that the vibration of the chants was creating more coherence and more attunement to essence. So now I look back on those decades and of terror, decades of being at the edge of what I thought was an abyss, as a dear, dear, dear friend, because I feel like it was my desperation for liberation and the good karma that sent me in this direction for liberation, rather than into drugs or into alcohol or into, I don't know, some other spiritual path which didn't have the payoff that whatever this journey I've been on has had. So now I'm in a place of peace, and as my teacher recommends, constant communion, unceasing communion with through a sattvic life, pretty sattvic lifestyle with being, and a place of constant peace. So anything I say to you is from my own humble experience. So whatever pain you're in, dukkha, the word for suffering in Sanskrit, a bad state of mind, in whatever way dukkha afflicts you, as alienation, as disenchantment, as heartbreak, as terror, as fear, as insecurity, whatever way dukkha is your companion, realize dukkha is your ally They say no one would think of God if it weren't for this stick, this dukkha, this suffering. So here we're using the most universal tool. This world is sung into being. There is no tool more powerful than working with the breath. Here we're using the most powerful tool of mantra yoga to purify the heart-mind. We have no idea what the mind is, or where it really is, or where the mind lies. So now we go on to our prayer to lead us from the unreal to the real, from the shadows of our mind into the nectar of immortality. Again, in this understanding, what is real is everywhere. What is real is everywhere, and what is not real is nowhere. And what is it that is real, that is everywhere, is this present. Do you hear that? The present is everywhere, and this is the only right, because what isn't in this present doesn't really exist. It's transitory, while this present is eternal. So the goal of this work, so you can always, one of the ways of beating the mind is when you hear the mind, just say story, story, story. That nothing in your mind is real. It's all story. The only reality is this eternal present, which is free of the mind and free of the mind's impressions and free of the mind's obsession. And we're talking about a liberation that takes place not in some heaven, not after death, but a liberation which is right here in this eternal present, that the more present we can be, the more peace we can experience, and the more bliss, which is our nature, we can experience. So our affirmation is to lead us from the unreal to the real. Again, A Sat. Sat is being, and A is not. From non-being, lead us Sad to being. From unreality, lead us to reality. Tamasoma Jyotir Gamaya. From that which perishes, lead us into the Jyotir. Jyoti is light, the self-effulgence of the soul. Again, there is a light of life right here in your aliveness and in your presence in this moment. The self-effulgence of the soul is the consciousness and the life in you right in this moment, that everything you're seeking you already have. So Jyotir is this presence that is within you right now as you. So from the fictions of our mind, that which perishes in our mind, lead us to the self-effulgence of the eternal presence. And Mrityorma, from the fear of death and oblivion, lead us to Amritam. The Amrit is the nectar of immortality. And you are enjoying the nectar of immortality right now in this presence. The most valuable thing you have is this life, and the quality of life is presence. To be alive is to be conscious, is to be present. To be present is to be alive. Everything you have is in the service of life. We cling to life like nothing else, and that is because that life is divine. Your life is divine. All life is divine. And the most intimate experience we have of divinity is in our clinging to this life. So I invite you not to desperately cling to life in ignorance, but to celebrate the life in you as the divine life, as the presence of God, as the presence of the goddess. It may be that this is it. As shattering as this is, You are having an intimate experience of the goddess, her tenderness, her beauty, her vulnerability. And if we look at the legends, the gods and goddesses are petty, vindictive, horny, small. You hear what I'm saying? So you're having this intimate experience of this sentience, which we describe as gods and goddesses walking the earth in a journey with tremendous purpose. And the end of our prayer is Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And Shanti is our experience of being. We experience of peace. Being radiates a great bliss and a great peace. So this is our prayer to lead us from the unreal into the eternal present, into that peace, which is our essential nature, into that light, into that bliss, into that love, which is our essential nature, that it is our birthright to embody divine love. And all these practices lead you home to your inherent love as a part of the sacred life. So let us turn within and affirm this as our essential nature, and affirm this as our intention.
Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya Om 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 Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya.
In the cosmology that we get from ancient India, the cosmology is is beginningless. Everything we know in nature is cyclical. Everything we know in nature is beginningless. And the question of beginnings is not a question that we can answer, because if you say God created everything, well, who created God? Something can't come from nothing. Big God created God. Okay, well, who created big God? Well, bigger God, you know. It's infinitely, it's not a question that we can answer logically. We can only presuppose a great and wondrous mystery. So in this case, the root of everything is consciousness. The root of everything is consciousness. We live in a vast, vast ocean of consciousness, a great and mysterious, beginningless consciousness. And so the quality of this consciousness is it's considered absolute, without quality, changeless. And yet it's described as being, consciousness, bliss, Sat, Chit, Ananda. And this absolute being, and again, to be being means to be, for being to be being, it must be conscious. And if you think about, and in this understanding, the being in you is exactly the same as the ultimate being. That there's no difference between this living consciousness in eternity without quality and the eternal consciousness in you that's simply living consciousness without quality. It simply is being, witnessing your experience. So if you get that, you're a good ways along the way. So in any case, the legend of creation is Lord Vishnu. Vish means to permeate. So we're talking about the creative intelligence that permeates everything, or the consciousness that permeates everything. Vishnu means to permeate. Or else Vishnu is also called Vasudeva, the great spirit, the all-pervasive spirit. So the all-pervasive spirit is asleep on a bed of serpents, and serpents symbolize endless time, symbolize eternity and a conquest of time. So consciousness is asleep in eternity, and consciousness dreams. This creative intelligence dreams and of a lotus which sprouts out of its navel. And sprouting out of the navel, and the lotus blossoms as a god, a four-headed god. And this four-headed god is called Brahma, which means an ever-expanding breath. So being, Vishnu, Vasudeva, dreams of becoming Brahma, an ever-expanding breath. And in our understanding, that is the breath of life, and that everything that moves is the life breath of a living universe. So from galaxies to the nano quarks in the atoms of your body, everything that moves is moving as part of the life breath of this living universe. And we constantly emphasize that the nature of this stuff of creation, this consciousness, is creative intelligence, and we contemplate, we join together to contemplate the dynamics of this creative intelligence and how these waves of breath unfold life as energy. So in our understanding, there's only one life here. There's only one breath, that there's the same breath. And this breath, you are not breathing the breath. The breath is breathing you. You have things a little backwards. That life, this one life, this universal life, this eternal life, this life is breathing you. And in each breath, you're on the unfolding of the evolution, the unfolding of the creative potency, the unfolding of the revelation of the infinite creative consciousness of being. And that each one of us is the cutting edge of the unfolding of the universe. Each one of us is the cutting edge of the unfolding of consciousness as this incredible infinite being unfolds this incredible dream of each and every one of us. And in our understanding, you are the personification of an instant of the cosmos. And you're the personification of that moment. And your dharma, dri means to uphold, from the Sanskrit root dri, which means to uphold. The place in creation which you are to uphold, your dharma, your place, is to be you. The unique, sensitive and vulnerable and feeling expression of being that you are, the profoundly tender, delicate, sentient being that you are the face of the goddess, and you're the body of the goddess, which is both transcendent as all being, as the self, the life in everyone, and eminent as the consciousness in you in this moment and everyone else. So we're saying it's not easy being the cutting edge of the unfolding of the universe, and it's not easy being the tenderness and delicacy of this rose we call the goddess, this lotus we call the goddess. And we point to your life and the incredible, incredible strength of spirit. When you think of the shit that you've dealt with along the way, the challenges that you've dealt with, the times that your life is shattered, and the amazing ability that you have found to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and to somehow recreate your life. And each time you've done it with more depth and wisdom and faith. And it's not something that has happened in the past, it's a challenge that we face each day as we seek to live in peace and presence with all the challenges of life. So again, our tool for cultivating our own inherent divinity is what your mind dwells upon, you become. So there are told that there's no more powerful tool, just like someone calls out your name. They say, Mimi, Patricia, Deborah. You turn around, it gets your attention. It's the same when we call out the name of the goddess. That this omnipresence faces us, within us. That each time we invoke the omnipresent from our own spirit, again, the life in you is the life of the cosmos. Everything you're seeking, you already have in your consciousness, and it's a matter of your focusing your consciousness. So by calling out the name of the goddess, you're invoking those qualities, those powers, that redemption within yourself. What is here is everywhere. What is not here is nowhere. So, let us use, one of our premises is that you embody the process of creation, that you are the product of ultimate intelligence, and your body is the product of ultimate intelligence, and a still point between the breath of heaven and the breath of earth. And the 5 chakras, the 5 material chakras, are points of harmonic convergence between your etheric body and the etheric body of the earth, the breath of the earth. And you can tune into these very powerful harmonics of the life field of the living earth. The energy flowing from below to above, the kundalini, the evolutionary potential. Through this chakra balancing that we're going to be using next. So any questions about my ravings this morning? Otherwise we go into our Gayatri Pranayam. Prana is the life force, and Yama is to control the life force. And again, we want to create a feedback loop of consciousness. First, we focus on our root chakra, Om Bhur, Om Earth, then a sacral lumbar juncture, Om Bhuvaha, astral, and then solar plexus, Om Swa, heaven, the heart, Maha, consciousness, Om Dhyana, liberating knowledge. Om Tapa, desire, intention, passion, at the third eye, and Om Satyam at the crown, being Om Tat Savatur Varanium, that which is worthy of worship, that which can shatter these illusions. Let us commune with that which is worthy of worship. The Savitri, the force, the light of consciousness, the light of our sun, the light of all suns, that it may allow us to commune with the Jyotir, the nectar of immortality, Jyotiras, Apo Jyotira Samritam, the Jyotir, the self-effulgence of the nectar of immortality, earth, heaven, and beyond. It's all here, right here in the Om of our consciousness, Swarom. Everything is Om. And what is Om? Om is the sound of the prana. Om is the reverberation of the prana, the reverberation of the life force. That life is one, same life in everyone, same life in the Buddha, in the Christ, in you. Life is unborn, undying, everywhere, always, eternal, forever and ever and ever. And everything is this blossoming, this flowering, this chanting of life. So let us purify our bodies as we commune with these essences in this liberating Gayatri mantra. Gayatri, again, is the Shakti, the power of Brahma, the Shakti within the breath of life.
Om Satyam Om Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Apo Jyoti Rasomritam Brahma Bhurbhuva Swaro. Om Satyam Om Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Apo Jyoti Rasomritam Brahma Bhurbhuva Swaro. Om Satyam Om Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Apo Jyoti Rasomritam Brahma Bhurbhuva Swaro. जनः ॐ तपः ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपो ज्योतिरसोऽमृतं ब्रह्मभूर्भुवः स्वरो ॐ जनः ॐ तपः ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपो ज्योतिरसोऽमृतं ब्रह्मभूर्भुवः स्वरो ॐ जनः ॐ तपः ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपो ज्योतिरसोऽमृतं ब्रह्मभूर्भुवः स्वरो ॐ जनः ॐ तपः ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपो ज्योतिरसोऽमृतं ब्रह्मभूर्भुवः स्वरो ॐ जनः ॐ तपः ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपो ज्योतिरसोऽमृतं ब्रह्मभूर्भुवः स्वरो ॐ जनः ॐ तपः ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपोच्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुव स्वरो ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपोच्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुव स्वरो ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपोच्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुव स्वरो ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपोच्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुव स्वरो ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपोच्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुव स्वरो ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ आपोच्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुवः स्वरो। ॐ सत्यम्। ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ आपोच्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुवः स्वरो। सत्यम्। ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ आपोच्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुवः स्वरो। सत्यम्। ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ आपोच्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुवः स्वरो। सत्यम्। ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ आपोच्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुवः स्वरो। सत्यम्। ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपो ज्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुवः स्वरो ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपो ज्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुवः स्वरो ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपो ज्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुवः स्वरो ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपो ज्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुवः स्वरो ॐ सत्यम् ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ आपो ज्योति रसोऽमृतं ब्रह्म भूर्भुवः स्वरो ॐ
Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May peace, may peace, may peace and justice prevail on our beloved Mother Earth. We dedicate our efforts to a vision of a springtime of humanity, where all humanity makes a leap in consciousness and realizes the unity and divinity of all life, where we cherish our Mother Earth as our own mother, and we share with our dear mother, we share with each other as brothers and sisters. For all our relations, Ahom Metakwiasan, Hari Om Tat Sat, and so it is.
May the grace of God bless man and every woman in this land. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Whatever comes between us, you know the darkness won't defeat us. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Some say the end is a-coming, said our souls are running, but I say stay strong, keep your faith alive. Let's all come together, take care of each other. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Hand in hand, side by side, with heart